Morning. Hey there. Hi. Hello. My name's Alyssa. I've always wanted to have a gardening channel, or gardening videos, I guess. And this is going to be my first try. Forgive me if I'm awkward. So, let's go see what I have grown. First thing we're going to look at is right behind me. This is my perennial bed that we put in about 3 or 4 years ago. And it's starting to fill in, so let's go check it out. So this bush right here, normally in the springtime, it's bright pink, all the flowers are open. It's getting towards the end of the time that it'll be around. So you can see all of the little blossoms are starting to wilt. But in the springtime, I'll put a picture in. All of them look like that one. And when we first planted this in here, it was only about 1/4 of the size. And every year it just gets like huge. I don't know if you can even tell, but this is my hand and that's the plant. Back here are 3 different kinds of lavenders that have just like all grown together. They're so small and now they're absolutely massive. You can't tell where the first one ends and the last, or where the first one begins and the last one ends. This is some yarrow. That's Diatomaceae surf. We're having a little bit of a ant problem. But this is yarrow. This is a native plant to California. What's gonna happen is that little flower bud right there it's gonna turn bright yellow. And this whole bed is like really great for the pollinators and the butterflies. And then all along here is also some salvia. This really cool plant is Jerusalem sage. So these yellow buds will actually drop off and it will just leave the foliage behind. But I love to be able to see this every year. That last little bulb will let yellow leaves out too, or petals. But yeah, I love that one. Attempted to do a strawberry bed that I wanted to start this year, but I used bare root strawberries and I've never done that before. So really, only one of them survived, so I just decided to plant a couple of zinnia seedlings around it. There was actually 5 there to begin with, and then the bugs, I don't know, some kind of bug got it. And so now I just have 3 and 1 strawberry plant, so we'll see what ends up happening with that. A dwarf lemon tree that was in this pot right here for a really long time. We just recently planted it into the ground. You can see all the little lemon blossoms on here. So this whole patch right here is my pea patch, or pea area. On the right hand side we have Lincoln peas, and on the left hand side we have sugar bone snap peas. If you can look a little closer, there are a ton of snap peas just loaded up on here. These ones actually started out a lot slower and they ended up developing much more quickly. It gets a little bit more afternoon sun than the Lincoln peas, but the Lincoln peas have some vegetables on it too. This is the pod. Along here you can see the peas inside starting to form, so that's pretty exciting. I never have had luck with peas, but mostly because of my own doing. I would always start them in like May, and they don't really like the hot weather, and you know, Central California gets super hot. So this year I actually have a decent amount of peas, and this is also the biggest they've ever gotten. This is just an overview of my garden. So I have the perennial bed here. I have 1 archway here with this 4x8 raised bed, some grow bags, 4 4x4 raised beds, and a second archway. And then if you go back here into my back area, if you're looking from the street, this we just put in this year also with archways, and it's a cattle panel that we attached to some T-posts, and we're going to be growing indeterminate tomatoes on there. So I planted these tomatoes out maybe like 3 weeks ago, way before it was 50 degrees at night. So when I was reading online on all my gardening groups, I was getting a little bit nervous, but they seem to actually be doing pretty well. So first we have a Mexican sunflower. These are supposed to get like 6 feet tall, and they're supposed to have like these bright orange flowers. They don't look exactly like sunflowers. Planted a marigold right here. And then the tomato is, I think, Thornburns terracotta tomato. So the skin is like a orangish color, And then the middle, the flesh is like also orange, but the seed gel is green. So that'll be really cool to see. This right here is a spoon tomato. Focus, there we go. Spoon tomato. These have all these really, really super tiny tomatoes that form, and people say that often they'll drop and you'll just get a bunch of volunteer plants of this. So that'll be kind of cool to see if they grow like in the ground, sort of. This tomato plant right here is a sunrise bumblebee, I think. Also this year I'm trying out these terracotta watering stakes. If you can see right there, there's a stake. And then this bottle has water. It's not triple sec, I promise. And it's just like slowly leaching the water into the plants. We'll see how it does. It gets really hot here. Queen Lime Red Zinnia. So they end up having like these really cool flowers on them that have a little bit of like lime green, and then the flower blooms out to red on the edges. So that'll be pretty cool. This right here is a Dr. Witchy's slicer tomato. They grow these really huge yellow tomatoes, and I like to eat them on tomato sandwiches. I have not really been successful in this. Usually I get, I can't remember what it's called, but the brown spot and then just the tomato before these get ripe. And then I planted some lemon basil also, which supposedly is really good in tea. Purple opal basil right here, and I have some more of this tucked in throughout the garden, like you'll see in this planter next to it. I did plant a tiny one right there, but it's getting eaten by something. I'm not sure what yet. This is a Brad's Atomic grape tomato, which is like this oblong shaped cherry tomato that has like green with like purple marbling in it, and they're really yummy. This is just a simple rosemary right here. This tomato is going to be, what is this? Pink Bumblebee Rose Tomato. So these tomatoes, they give a light pink flesh. They're cherry tomatoes. I have not grown them yet, so we will find out if they're good or not. This one right here is a Coreopsis. So I actually transplanted these out when they were really small, and this one right here got eaten up by some bugs, but it's okay. They're still growing slowly but surely. That right there is lettuce leaf basil. So these leaves on this basil get like huge, like enough to where you could use lettuce wraps on it. So I'm thinking that's what I'm gonna try to do. But they also said you could still make like pesto and stuff. The flavor is just like a little more mild. This plant right here is a mortgage lifter tomato. Literally like a classic red slicer, and they grow really, really big. This right here is my shining star. She's doing so good. This is called a Napa Rose blush tomato. So this one also has a light pink exterior, and it's another cherry variety. And I planted some lettuce leaf basil. See, this one I planted a little bit earlier, so the leaves are bigger, but look at how big these leaves have gotten so far. Really cool. This is a volunteer sunflower that I had in one of my raised beds, but it was way too big and crowding everything out. So I planted it into here so that it could provide some shade with all of my tomatoes. So we're gonna find out together what this grows into. And then this last tomato is another Dr. White Cheese tomato. So I tried 3 different kinds of mint. I think I have spearmint, peppermint, and then this really cool mint called lavender mint that I used in one of my sleepy time teas. Really cool. This is a golden rod, I think. It's a native California plant that we got at a plant sale. It looks like it's at the end of its life. Now I'm gonna go through the raised beds here. What I did was basically I had planted a bunch of sunflowers, like different kinds, Mongolian sunflower, which I think is this because it's a single-headed sunflower and it's huge. It's supposed to get like 13 feet tall, and the flower is supposed to be like the size of like a pizza box or something. So this one's growing really fast. I'm thinking it's that, but I'm not sure. So again, we're gonna find out together what's going on in this garden. This is another sunflower here, and you can see the leaves right here are going to have little sunflowers on it. So it's multi-headed, and it's gonna look really cool. My idea behind planting all these sunflowers was that we get so much sun here in Central California, that a lot of the things will either like crisp up during the summer, or like cucumbers, they will get bitter when it's too hot outside. So I was hoping that the sunflowers would provide some shade, because my son moves from there to there, my backyard. So yeah. This right here is a Parisian pickling cucumber. I had 2 plants of those, but something totally decimated the one that was right there. And then these 2 right here are a type of Japanese cucumber. They grow to be like, I think like 16 inches. The skin is really tender. You can eat the skin, and it's thin. It's called a Tokyo green cucumber. I'm really excited to try this one. These 2 grow bags right here are my potato patch. So they are a determinate variety. So with those, you could just have to deep them, or bury them really deep and let them grow, and you'll get potatoes. The only thing I'm afraid of is I heard online that the foliage could look really great and you'll get no potatoes. So yeah, hopefully it actually ends up growing. So these are dragon tongue bush beans, the lighter colored ones right here. They're supposed to be green with purple marbling in them. They were really, really popular a couple years ago, but I'm excited to grow those. I also stuck a couple of marigolds in here. And this one is my only surviving jade bush bean. And then along the back right here, these darker ones, they are a type of purple pole bean. I can't remember the name. I'll put it on the screen, but I've never grown this type before, so we will see how it goes. Let's go to the back of this area. So this is an Apricota Cosmo right here. We're at the back of the bed where the cucumbers and the sunflowers were. I planted this the last week of January as well. It's not really what I imagined it looking like according to the picture at the seed company. I got these from Baker's Creek. But they are still pretty. It's just a lot smaller than what I was imagining it to be. So hopefully it will get a little bit taller. So funny story about this. This plant right here and this plant right here, the same plant. I planted this guy first. It's an Argentinian squash. It's called, gosh, what is it called? Trunco. These plants, they produce these little round, I think you're supposed to pick them when they're about 4 inches across. And they're these round green squash. They can be either summer squash or a winter squash. So if you leave them on longer and the skin hardens up, they'll be longer for storage. But what people do is they cut them in half, or they'll cut the top off, scoop out the seeds and stuff it. So I want to try like some chorizo or something inside with maybe like some rice and the cut up squash from the middle. That sounds really good. But I planted this plant. It took so long to grow because, of course, I was impatient and planted it out way too early, that I planted a second plant. And now this plant is starting to take off, and I'm going to have way too much of this squash, so I'll have to donate it to some friends or something. This is another mystery sunflowers. More marigolds, of course. This is a Keho watermelon. So it's an oblong shaped watermelon. It's pretty small, like a personal size watermelon with orange flesh. I haven't grown this variety yet, so we will see. I haven't really grown a lot of melons. The only other melons I've grown is a small cantaloupe, and then this thing called a Kajari melon, which I'm growing 3 plants of that this year. So that's the Kajari melon. The outside is like an orange striped flesh, and then, or orange striped skin, and then you cut it open and it's green like a honeydew. It's super sweet, really tiny. Definitely a personal size watermelon, but I'm excited to see that. That is just Genovese basil, so just regular basil. It's getting eaten up by something though. And this is chives. So I heard that chives were a good companion plant to melons, so I figured why not. So my idea is that these 2 melons are gonna grow up this trellis. We're gonna have a cool little archway. And on this side, we have more Kajari melons. I planted a random dwarf sunflower here. This is another type of bush bean. Some more lettuce leaf basil and chives. There's another Kajari melon and more regular basil. I have a mystery sunflower here, and this was actually the first bloom I had for this apricot lemonade Cosmo. This is my pot of shallots. This is my first year growing shallots. Not really sure if I'm doing it right. I pulled one out it doesn't really look like it's forming much of a bulb. So, learning process. This is the only bed that I got starts from the nursery. So that romaine lettuce I got as a start, Swiss chard I got as a start, and these onions I got as a start from the nursery too. I used to have 2 kale plants along the trellis right here, and I also had spinach plants. I ended up removing those because we weren't really using them anymore and the weather was starting to get hot. I wanted to make room for some peppers. So this right here is a lemon spice jalapeno pepper, another random bush bean. That back there is a zinnia, and a zinnia back there. I love zinnias. They're so easy to grow. Would definitely recommend it for anybody who is starting out gardening. This is a tiny Cosmo that was getting shaded out by a kale plant, so we'll see what ends up happening. There is a little bud on it. I don't think it's going to end up getting too big. This plant right here is a cayenne pepper. I'm going to dry them and make them into pepper flakes. We have more onions back here, and then I have a poblano pepper here, mystery sunflower here. Now we're on the other side of here, but anyways, some more onion starts from the nursery. And then this is another poblano pepper. If you look at this one, it's like a little bit taller. I don't know if it's because it's not getting enough light, but I'm gonna do an experiment this year. I'm gonna top one of the peppers, which is where you cut the growth point so it bushes out, and I'm gonna leave one and let it get super, super tall. This is my second archway. This side I'm growing more of those purple pole beans, so that's gonna fill out this area. And then on this side I have a honey nut squash, which is like small size of a butternut squash, so that'll be really cool. These were really small. I'll try, if the video's long enough, I'll insert some pictures of these when I first transplanted these over. They've just gotten like so huge. But yeah, that's my honey nut squash babies. So this bed right here is the back of the pea area, so we can see all these peas. I'm gonna pick them all today because why not? So in here I used to have, along this back area, cabbages. I planted them way too late. They didn't even get big enough, especially because our winter was so cold and wet this year. We didn't have a lot of sunlight, so everything was just kind of delayed a little bit, but it's okay. I still got some cool stuff. That is a Chinese broccoli, so it's supposed to tolerate the heat a little bit more, but I think it might be flowering soon. If you look at the bud right here, so I might cut it off and eat it in a stir fry today. That'd be okay. Over here, so if you look at this little guy, it's already sprouted. I planted him way too late. I planted an initial round of bok choy. It's called Tiny Hedu. It's a miniature type of bok choy. I planted some back out in January, got eaten to a nub. So I tried to replant them again, and it was a little bit too late. So they just look like tiny little leaves, but I'll try again in the fall. Live and learn. This is another bachelor's button, so we'll see this coming up. This is Merlot lettuce that I planted from seed last week of January. A lot of this cold weather stuff I did last week of January. Again, we have some mystery sunflowers right there, right here, and right here. I had all radishes right here. I only probably got like 5 because, again, there's something in this bed that really likes to eat. I did some marigolds. That's another bachelor's button right here. And here I have, if you look, I've got some radishes. I have a radish coming up. So this little radish patch is already way better than the one I did in January. They got eaten up by slugs or whatever they were. This right here is a gray zucchini. So my initial plan with this is I'm gonna grow it up a T-post and grow it vertically, but it doesn't look too great. So if it doesn't end up like greening up, I might end up getting a start from a nursery for the gray zucchini. These are some pepper plants I'm gonna plant out into this bed before I leave. It's just been so hot, I don't want them to get shocked, but this is another shishito pepper. This right here is an Aji, I'm not even gonna try to say it, but it's a Peruvian pepper. Apparently it's like the world's most expensive pepper. It's this really small. They use it as a house plant most of the time. These little small round, they say it's citrusy flavor. So I thought it'd be cool to try. This is my little double-headed echinacea. I don't know if it's zooming, but yeah, so that's that. This right here is an orange bell pepper plant I got from the nursery. And these are a mixture. I have a Roma tomato in here. And then I have a, where's the other kind? So this is an Italian determinate tomato. It's called Principe Bourgeois, or I don't know if I'm saying it right, but something like that. They're supposed to be really good for making sun-dried tomatoes, so I'll do that in my dehydrator this year. This right here is my chamomile. I just recently got the flowers off so that I can make tea, so they're still growing back. And then I have these pots right here. Another apricot lemonade. This right here is another calendula. Red it looks like, or orange, bright orange. And right here I have, this was the herbs that I thought were a little bit more cooler weather. So we have some dill right here. I've never had luck with this, so it'll be cool if I end up actually having some luck. Some cilantro and some parsley. This is bee balm and salvia. I don't know which is which. And then over here I have some rosemary. I don't know which thyme is which, but I have English thyme and then another kind of thyme. I can't remember what the other one was. But yeah, those are doing good. So this was going to be my little flower patch right here. Even though I put flowers throughout the garden, this is going to just be mostly for flowers. So again, here we go with the mystery sunflower. This one's already forming a head. A volunteer sunflower. I don't know what kind that is. And this was a volunteer sunflower. So we'll end up finding out about those. Right here I have golden, I think they're called golden boy beets or something. And then this side is another red beet that's supposed to get really large. I have a ton of like damage on these leaves. I don't know what it's from, so I'm gonna have my fiance come out and spray this stuff with some neem oil today maybe, because even this one is really big. So the front of this bed I put little like not dwarf sunflowers, but they only get to be about 3 feet. And then all of these back here are different kinds of zinnias. And then I wanted to plant the large sunflowers in the middle to like kind of look cool. Hopefully it doesn't get all eaten up before stuff can actually grow. I think they'll be fine. They'll rebound for sure. If not, I can always start some more zinnia seeds. It's not too late. We have such a long growing season here. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. This is the start of my garden. We are getting ready to go on a 2-week vacation, so my mom's gonna be in charge while I'm gone, and we'll see how it ends up growing. Anyways, thanks for looking at my garden with me.